Hey, Steve.
It is very good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here with us. Always great to have you here with us.
Hey, guys.
I want to get started with a couple of things. We want to talk about guitar care and guitar setup. Always the
Sure.
first of the year we bring you out, and we have you talk about some of the key things with guitar maintenance, guitar repair, guitar setup, things like that. First of all, let me ask you.
Sure.
How long have you been here at Gruhn's?
As of a week ago, it's my 13th year.
13th year.
Yeah, 13th year here at Gruhn Guitars.
Wow.
It's been fantastic.
Wow. And up on the repair department, how many full-time repair guys do you guys have now?
9 now.
9.
9 now, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we're staying super busy. As always, I think last year, 2018, was the busiest year for especially the shop. Busier than I've ever seen it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of repairs, a lot of really talented repairmen upstairs. I'm
Yeah.
really proud of them. They're phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. As we're talking about guitar care,
Sure.
for just the average guitarist out there, what are some things they should be thinking of as far as taking care of their guitar?
Humidity.
Humidity.
Humidity. You want to hover right around 45% at all times.
Electrics and acoustics?
Electrics
Just
and acoustic,
acoustics?
period. With instruments now in the winter months, it's going to be tough to keep it at 45. You need some humidification type system going on, whether it be a damped, a room humidifier.
Are one of them better than the other, or they're just different types?
I prefer a room humidifier. I mean, I have anywhere between 10 and 20 instruments in my little workspace.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a habit of getting a small, cheap, $15, $20 room humidifier,
Yeah.
and then I use that for the winter months. And I usually get one every year. You're
Yeah.
supposed to use a certain kind of water, distilled water. You're supposed to clean out your humidifier
Mm-hmm.
often. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I just let about a gallon blast through it a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's plenty for between 10 and 20 instruments to keep it right around between 40 and 46%. So in the winter months, it's going to be tougher to keep you at 45.
Because of all the heat.
Yeah, and depending on where you live, if you come from a colder type climate, you're going to run your heat. It's going to dry it out. You're going to need to put more moisture back in the air. Your instruments will definitely need it. If you're able to maintain 45% humidity year-round on your instruments, you're
Mhm.
not likely to need adjustments.
Yeah.
Or if anything, maybe a little neck adjustment at most. You usually need serious adjustments when the humidity levels go up and down, and then you need to bring the instrument back to the proper humidity before you could start making some adjustments.
Yeah.
That's a big myth in many ways, where you want to go ahead and do setups, but it's not as quick to do an hour setup on an instrument sometimes, especially an acoustic guitar.
Mhm.
If you can tell the acoustic guitar dried out,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to just go ahead and set that instrument up to give it back to the customer, because you know that as soon as the humidity levels go back up, their instruments are going to be out of whack again.
Yeah.
So what I'll always do is I'll humidify the instrument while I have it. I can blast that one instrument by way of bagging it, introducing that moisture back into the instrument, and then I can set it up, and that person's usually good to go for some time.
What are some ways that you can tell if your instrument is too dry?
Sharp fret ends, that's always the big one. If you can feel the ends of your frets protruding from your fingerboard, the wood itself
Yeah.
shrunk just a hair, the fret is going to stay put.
Yeah.
That's the biggest telltale sign. On a flat top guitar, you're going to see the top somewhat caving in. So on an acoustic guitar, you'll notice that your action is getting lower and lower.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the top itself, or the box as a whole, is drying out.
Yeah.
So that's another way to tell on acoustic guitars. Yeah.
Humidity is really just kind of it's a silent little thing, but
Oh, yeah.
it is the cause of so many
Prolonged.
big issues.
Yeah, prolonged. If it's 30% humidity in your house, and your instrument stays in that environment for a 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're going to have problems.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of time. Your bridge might pop off.
Mhm.
The glue joint will fail. The top will sink in a little bit. If you're keeping between 40 and 50% on a regular basis, if it goes down to 30% for even a week, you're okay. It's not a big deal. It has to do with the instrument losing its ability to retain that moisture.
Yeah.
And then over the next few weeks, then you can have problems.
Yeah. You also want to be smart about temperature
Right.
and temperature changes with your instrument. You don't want to put your instrument. I know it looks pretty by the fireplace.
Right.
Don't put your guitar, store it on its stand next to that roaring fire, unless you want to have a guitar that is just dry as a bone.
Looks
in
good, though.
a week. It looks great, but it's going to be worthless as an instrument.
Yep.
So be careful with temperature, huge temperature change, especially in the wintertime. You don't want to have your guitar next to an air vent, maybe on the floor or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
You want to be sensitive to that. Just smart about that.
We really focus on that. I mean, we have a climate-controlled environment on all 3 floors. Here at Gruhn's, the shop is set to a standard humidity, so we don't worry too much about it. We can work on instruments, and we're aware of it. But like I said, when folks, it's always surprising to some folks if they come in and we are taking some repair work in from the public when we are, and their instrument is just super, super dry. What does your instrument needs? Well, it needs, first of all, it needs to be humidified to bring it back so that we can actually set it up. And that can take a week or a week and a half to perform a 45-minute to an hour job.
Yeah.
But the humidification, getting that moisture back into the instrument is super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some other things as far as keeping just good care of your guitar?
Right.
You want to avoid getting knocked over,
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, you have to be careful with certain things.
Right. I like the idea of keeping a clean instrument. I've always said it. The cleaner and the better your instrument is set up, the more likely you are to pick up and play it. So it's a good habit to wipe off your instrument when you're finished playing with it, and it's also a good idea to wipe your strings off as well if you're if you're playing, because you might you have sweat going on. You're going to put that on the strings. It's just a good idea to just give your strings a quick wipe down as well. You'll prolong the string life.
Yeah.
And that's always a good idea. Plus, it's respectful to the instrument, I think.
One thing, if you're prone to having more sweat on your hands,
Right.
things like that, wash your hands. It's a good habit for all of us to get into. Before you pick up your instrument and start playing for the day, wash your hands. Just get all the gunk, the day's grunge off
right.
your hands, especially if you're doing any sort of work outside, work with the car, anything like that. Wash your hands before you play. And then that way these oils that would be on your fingers are not transferring the instrument.
That's right.
As much.
Super important. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about setups.
Okay.
Guitar setups, a common adjustment that needs to be made on a guitar for an average guitar player who plays, let's say, maybe 3 or 4 hours a week.
Sure.
How often do you think they should get a setup done?
It's likely to be once. I mean, your instrument really needs a good setup once. And if you stick to the same string gauge, and you don't change, your tuning stays the same, you're good to go for a long period of time. You might need a neck adjustment, and that falls under the setup, header of what your instrument would need. But usually a neck adjustment is all it needs. You go through a full-on setup when it wasn't aligned to begin with.
Yeah.
So anytime you guys purchase an instrument, from whatever store you're going to purchase it from, be sure that it's set up. That's pretty important. When we sell an instrument, even if it's new, used, whatever it might be, not only does it get a setup, when we hang it on the wall, but it gets another setup before it leaves.
Yeah.
That's really important. You should never go home with a guitar that's not in tune if the intonation is out or whatever it might be. Afterwards, it's general maintenance. It might need a neck adjustment, but it's not likely to need a full-on setup unless you change string gauge where it needs to be re-intonated.
Or you've done something has happened to the guitar.
That's
It's
right.
got knocked around.
Something knocked around.
It's gone through humidity things.
Right.
something
Most of
like
the time, instruments don't need full-on setups. They just need little adjustments.
What are the parts of when someone says, "Hey, give me a guitar setup"? What are the steps that a repairman goes through?
It's real simple. I mean, in concept, one follows the other, and if you don't veer from this order, you can set up any instrument by applying this to it in this order. So at first, it's adjusting the neck under full string tension. Okay. Once the neck is adjustment, you tune it again. Okay.
Back up
to
again.
pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. At which point you want to adjust your action, which is done at the saddles or the bridge and the saddles. If it's an acoustic guitar, it's going to be your saddle. And an electric guitar, it's going to be your bridge. And then the saddles, depending on if it's a Gibson ABR or Fender or whatever it might be. That's step number 2. So you adjust to compensate for the curvature of the and the radius of the fingerboard. You're going to make that adjustment here. That's step number 2. Once you do that, you tune it back up to pitch. Okay. Step number 3 is going to be dialing in your nut height. Very, very important that you do that only after you adjust the neck. Okay, so many times I see instruments that where the nut slots have been adjusted prior to the neck being adjusted, and you can easily.
And then when you get that neck straightened out,
then you have every single open note buzz.
Yep.
So first and foremost, you want to tune the instrument to pitch, adjust the neck, tune the instrument to pitch again, adjust for action by way of the bridge and the saddles, then tune it to pitch, adjust the nut slots. You come back and you tune it to pitch again. Okay. At that point, right around that point, I'll see what my pickup heights are, roughly put them where I need them, and then I intonate it. Okay. Intonation needs to happen at the end. If you make an adjustment after you do your intonation is no longer on point. You need to go back and check that. So, neck adjustment, action adjustment at the bridge and the saddle, nut height adjustment. Okay. Intonation, and pickup height on an electric guitar. If you follow that order every single time, or your repair person does, you'll have a great setup, a great playing guitar setup ready to go every single time.
Yeah, it is an important thing to have done because a lot of times folks don't even think that your guitar will need adjusting.
That's right.
The neck will need adjusting. Something will need to happen with it, and you end up struggling with your instrument. There's nothing hard. Playing is hard enough without having an instrument that's fighting you back.
That's right.
Because the action is too high, or notes are buzzing because the string height is too low, or something like that.
That's it.
So getting a qualified person to do a setup for you is an important thing. Now, it is something that you can do yourself.
Sure.
Okay, and as a guitarist, if you're planning on being in this gig for a while, it's good to be able. You need to know how to make these adjustments on your own instrument. Take care of your instrument.
Bare bones. The bare bones adjustments. You should be able to handle, or at least have an understanding of why my instrument is buzzing. Yeah. Or you should be able to kind of troubleshoot that on the fly.
Yeah.
I think it's very important. And also, the better your guitar is set up, the more likely you'll play it.
I
don't know how many times I see instruments on stands, and I already know how it plays, and I'm not gravitating towards it.
Yeah.
But if it played great, you can't get it out of your hands.
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's
Exactly.
a better instrument that way.
Exactly. I know you have a guitar course on setting up your own guitar for the average player.
I do.
What guitars do you go through for that?
Everything. Flat top guitar, arch top guitar. In the world of electrics, the different animals from different families. Strats, Telly, pretty close, a little different. Strats and Tellys. I do a Les Paul, which is very important. Really, it's the Strat and the Les Paul. Those are the two different groups. Most instruments are going to either follow the Gibson type, ABR, SGs, Les Paul, whatever might be there, and then you have the Strat type bolt-on neck, so set neck and bolt-on neck setups. Those are the two big families, I guess, and then you have neck throughs, but that's pretty specific, I guess.
Right. Greg's course is called Learn and Master Guitar Setup and Maintenance, course that we did with Legacy Learning Systems many years ago. But all of the the adjustments on it are standard.
They're standard, yeah.
It's a great course. If you have not checked that out, you can just dial in, type in Learn a Master Guitar Setup with Greg Voros, and it'll get you right to the course.
I really try and simplify all of this. It's not rocket science. There's some of the work that we do upstairs. It's still not rocket science.
Yeah.
But a lot of the work we do upstairs is bigger, and it takes more time, and you have to have certain experience, woodworking experience, and you need to know how to approach each instrument. The setup is never something that once you understand how to do a basic setup, it's pretty straightforward. You can't unknow it. And instruments are very much alike. From an electric guitar to an acoustic guitar to an arch top, whatever you have, the same rules apply. And the only difference between an electric guitar that plays great with low action and an acoustic guitar is about a 32nd of an inch. And knowing where that adjustment is made is key.
Yeah.
But they're not that different. that you don't have an acoustic guitar setup specialist and an electric guitar setup specialist. Once you have it, you understand it. You could pretty much set up anything with frets that are steel stringed.
Yeah. We've got a couple of questions that have already come in here, and I've got a couple of questions I want to get to as well. Let's see if we can get to a couple of these. Robert Jones is saying, Greg, my humidity in my house is at between 60 to 70% year-round. Should I try to lower it to 45?
Yeah, absolutely. Your instruments are swollen. Now, if you have electric guitars, they're a little bit more hardy in that way. Acoustic guitars wouldn't take too well to it. You can almost see that they're a little puffy. Your action is going to be sky high, and you might get to a point where you can no longer remove material from your saddle to get it playable. But that's not even the right approach. The right approach is to get the humidity out, the moisture out of the instrument, so you can set it up properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really high. I would think about a dehumidifier without a doubt.
And it depends on where you live. I mean, if you live in Phoenix, you're going to be wrestling with low humidity.
That's right.
If you live in Seattle, you're going to be wrestling with too much humidity.
That's right.
So just be aware of these things. Stuart DeWolf is saying, Greg, what would cause the finish of an older 60s Fender acoustic to turn milky white into bubble?
Could be a reaction with the sweat, the acids in the skin. Could be a number of different things. I've seen it. Could have been the prep before they finished the instrument after some time. On the 60s, I don't really see it on 60s instruments very much because it would still have been nitro cellulose type finish. It's really until you got a little bit later on that I saw some of that kind of hazing in the 70s happen. But it could be, the other thing that can happen too is, if you have a polyester shirt against the nitrocellulose finish, well, that'll react pretty fast. So if you guys want to wear out the arm on an instrument real fast, that's a nitro finish. A polyester shirt will get you there pretty quick.
Yeah.
So that could be some of the hazing or the dullness as well.
Yeah. Jada Pig is saying, what if they are kept in cases? How does humidity affect them?
They're safer.
Safer in cases.
They're safer in the cases, but they're still there, and they're still in that environment. So it's like I said, it's safer kept in a case, but it's not likely to stay there. You're going to play the instrument, so you're going to open that up, and once you open it up, and there is a difference, like I said, between electric guitars and acoustic guitars. Acoustic guitars, be mindful, is completely unfinished on the inside.
It's bare wood.
It's bare wood, and it has a big giant sound hole with bare wood on the inside, so they're a little bit more finicky than electric guitars, which are, which have a candy shell. Yeah. In that way.
I mean, those acoustics, that humidity can get, that moisture can go out of that instrument quickly, definitely quicker than this, and it can go into that instrument quicker because you're right, it's just bare open there. If you have if you leave your guitar in your case, there's little in-case humidifiers you can get. The little dampits are great for acoustic guitars, just kind of a green little sponge sort of a thing.
That's right.
Yeah, for $20 or less, these little foam things, and you dip it in water.
And they hang. You want to go ahead and wipe it off with a paper towel, and they hang inside of your acoustic guitar. Every couple of days, if you go back to it and check it, well, if it's dry, that means your instrument, your box, is pulling from that sponge in what it needs. If you check it, a handful of days later, and it's still just as moist as when you put it in there in the first place, your instrument is satisfied. It has what it needs, and it's not pulling any more than it needs.
You don't want it drippy.
Right.
You don't want it drippy. That you don't want it leaking water on the inside of your guitar. Dennis Skaggs is saying, Greg, would humidity cause the binding on the lower bout to pop out on a Martin 0042?
Sure, absolutely. The wood itself is moving, slightly moving. Okay, the plastic binding, usually plastic, sometimes wooden, but usually the binding is plastic. Well, that's going to stay put, So if the wood is moving around it, something is going to stay put, and you're either going to have the binding not release from the wood itself, which causes a crack, or if it does release from the binding, then you have the binding that's separated. So yes, humidity in that way would definitely impact that.
Chuck Snyder is saying fret buzz above the 15th fret on an acoustic.
Okay. So this goes back to how electric guitars and acoustic guitars are pretty similar. One of the biggest myths out there is that an acoustic guitar is supposed to have way more relief in the neck than an electric guitar.
Relief meaning?
More, relief would be how straight the neck is. Okay. it would be how straight the neck is. So if you guys are checking this out at home, this is good to know. If you hold down the 1st fret and the 14th fret and you tap in the centermost point on the high E, you do the same thing on the low E, and that'll tell you how much relief you have by way of what the truss rod can do. So the gap that you're looking at between the 14th and 1st is a few thousandths of an inch. Okay. More relief would be more of a gap, would be closer to 5, 6, 7 thousandths, 10 thousandths of an inch, whatever that might be. Well, what happens when you have a greater gap where the truss rod is actually able to make an adjustment? Well, what happens is that when you measure your action off the 12th fret, if you have too much relief in your neck, you're going to wind up lowering the saddle to adjust for that action. And then what winds up happening, because the truss rod only adjusts from the 1st till about the 10th, 11th, 12th frets, everything after that is no man's land. So if you have more relief here than what you need, you'll measure your action, bring the saddle down, and as soon as you walk near the 15th fret where the truss rod no longer adjusts, your action is too low to get past that kick up that's created. Okay?
Yep.
That's why you're buzzing. I would imagine if you were to straighten the neck out to where it should be and compensate for that by raising the action, okay, so you could still have spec action in multiple different ways depending on where your neck is. Once you straighten out your neck, bring up the action at the saddle to compensate for how much you straighten the neck out. I would almost guarantee that you will not buzz right around that 14th, 15th, 16th fret. That's a great question too, because anytime that I do fret work on an instrument or a setup, I'll tune it, and the first place I'll play it is where it's most susceptible to buzz, which is right around this area.
Yep.
If I make this area play without issues, I can almost tell you without a doubt the instrument's going to play everywhere.
Yeah. It's a system. It's a system. So you've got things that affect it on this end. You got things that affect it down here on your bridge. If you got a tremolo, you got that's added into the system. That could be coming up or coming back, and you may need to have that adjusted. Your neck is part of that as well. So you adjust one of these things, it affects the pressure on the other side of it as
That's
well.
why I always push for doing things in an order and never veering from it.
Yeah.
Once you commit to that order, neck, action, nut, intonation, you can't go wrong. You'll have a great setup every single time.
Yeah. Wow, we've already got so many more questions than we can even get to.
You had a couple of good ones too.
Which one you want to tackle?
The ones that
okay, we had a couple that came in on the discussion board. Dave White says, "What is the most common repair that comes in the shop?"
It's going to be this. It's going to be a setup. Every instrument needs a setup. It's going to need a string change, a setup, a cleanup. That's going to be number one. Number two, I'd say on acoustic guitars, it's going to be bridge re-glues, and that's from Humidity.
Yeah.
Humidity-related bridge re-glues. That's a big one.
If your bridge, and how you can tell that is if your bridge right here is starting to come up. If there's a gap there, then that's something that you need to get replaced.
Pretty quick. If you would ever see your bridge starting to peel up, I would slack the strings on the instrument because it's just a matter of time, and it could really make it worse from pulling on it. You don't want... If your bridge is going to go, slip loose, you would hope that the glue joint fails and that you're not actually pulling the wood fibers of the top.
Yep.
So it's good to...
But I've seen that. Boy, I've seen some bad...
So you want to go ahead and slack the strings so you're not likely to do damage. And the repair person that's, looking to work on the instrument, they're mindful, or should be mindful, of how to pull that bridge off of there by working against the fibers that have been pulled up so you go the opposite direction. These little things you got to think about.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
How does a person find a good, competent repair person in their area? What are some signs to look for?
Man, that's a really tough one. What I would say is what we say, I guess, every year. Ask other musicians. Happy musicians make great referrals. I work at Gruhn Guitars, which is great. Yeah. But, when I do work for folks, it's all by word of mouth, and that'll make you or break you.
Yeah.
You can only fake it for so long.
Yeah.
But if you ask another musician who, them being a good player helps.
Yep.
So if you ask a musician that you respect their playing style, ask them who does their setup work, or ask them, hey, do you have anybody in mind? 99 times out of 100 they'll say yes, absolutely. You got to go see my friend, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But ask around, and that's really, really important.
Doug H. asked online, Taylor bolt-on neck. This is for a Taylor guitar. A Taylor bolt-on neck shims versus the bridge sanding to lower action on a Taylor guitar. So he's trying to lower the action on a Taylor guitar.
Okay.
What would be the best way to go about it?
So here's what I say. Taylor is very unique because of their bolt-on neck design, and they have corresponding shims that go with the dovetail and the extension as well. It's a very smart system. Okay, so if you need to make I'd say over a 30-second, closer to 3/64ths of an adjustment, I would take that instrument to a Taylor authorized repair person, and they'll go ahead, and what they'll do is reset your neck for you. It's an expensive setup is what it is. So the neck comes out, there's a shim that goes in there which works with the extension to the pitch and how much it kicks the neck out, and that's a great way to do it. If the adjustment could be made and the difference is, let's say, a 32nd of an inch, I would take that from the underside of the saddle, not the bridge. It's going to be the saddle on an acoustic guitar, and I'll make that happen without thinking twice. Any more than that, I'll go ahead and change the pitch of the neck.
If you've got a Taylor instrument, go to Taylor's website. They will have a list of the people that have been certified to work on their instruments. Okay, here's the difference in the question. It's subtle. If you go to your local music store and say, "Hey, do you guys work on Taylors?" They're going to say, "Yeah."
Right.
But that may not be an official certified, been trained, been up to Taylor, been through the school, knows how to set up Taylor. That's a different guy.
Yeah, they have incredibly high standards over at Taylor. They're fantastic. They're all wired in an awesome way. I respect those guys a lot. So, yeah, that's super important. And keep this in mind. All of this, when we're talking setups, and especially an acoustic guitar, all of this really has to do with the humidity.
Yeah.
Right, goes right back to the humidity. Okay, you can have an instrument that's really dry, and if you gave it to me, I can get you going in the next 45 minutes, ready to go. But I really didn't service that instrument properly.
Yeah.
You're playing in the next few months when the seasons change, your instrument's going to play terrible. And if I would have removed material from your saddle, well, now it has to be brought back up.
Yep.
And sometimes it comes at a cost of now you have to pay for a new saddle. So I always say that it's so important to look at the instrument, look at the top of an acoustic guitar, see if it's caving, see if the belly looks healthy, look around the instrument, feel the fret ends. Look at the instrument. You can judge pretty quick in how that instrument was stored. That's the first thing you need to do is determine what that instrument needs. And I'll be quick to say, all right, well, it just needs a setup, and it needs to be humidified, and I usually don't charge for that, but it can take anywhere from 2 days to a week, before I get that moisture back into that instrument, and then the setup takes, again, half an hour, 45 minutes tops.
What about cleaning your instrument, cleaning your guitar? What sort of products should you use? What sort of products should you avoid?
I don't know if there's really products to avoid nowadays, because most people make a pretty good polish cleaning product. I think. I mean, I'm always a big fan of Professor Green's. I helped formulate the the juice or the sauce. So I'm always big on that, and the reason why I was a huge fan of it and still am for a long time is because it doesn't alter the sheen. So what a lot of polishers are going to have in common, they'll all do the job of cleaning your instrument and polishing it. Sometimes you don't want a really polished look. Sometimes you really don't want a polished look, but all of them are going to do the trick, I think.
Now, having said that, you've been very gracious, but to those of us on this more foolish end of the spectrum, in my younger years, I thought, you know what cleans good? Alcohol cleans good.
Right.
And so I had a little smudge in my guitar. I thought, well, I'll just get it with alcohol, and I'll just do that, clean that right off there.
Right. It doesn't work like that. What does work, how...
You know what came off? My finish is what came off, not the smudge.
Yeah, you know what works really well is VM&P naphtha, and that's one of the other questions that you have there. Naphtha is lighter fluid, and lighter fluid naphtha has no impact on nitrocellulose finish whatsoever. It's categorized as a solvent, but it's not a solvent like acetone lacquer thinner, MEK, butyl cellusolve, or any of these other solvents. So you can actually use naphtha if you have like a grungy area, whether it be stickers that were all over the instrument that you want to take off. Lighter fluid.
Years of sweat.
Yeah, that'll really cut through and get in there and take it off. So naphtha is a good cleaning agent. But at the same time, I mean, it is lighter fluid. You know, so you want to use little bits of it and not soak a paper towel or a polishing cloth full of it, because I mean that could be dangerous. It can combust as well. So just be mindful when you're working with these solvents, I guess. But naphtha, to be clear on it, naphtha is the only solvent that should be used to do any kind of minor cleaning on an instrument.
Wow. If
There's
no
a
way,
lot going on, I know.
There's no way. I mean, we got like 10 questions happening here. One of the things that's been going on our discussion board, a little bit of a back and forth, is David put up an article saying, can paint adjust the tone of your guitar? Can paint affect your tone?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, you have different finishes, you know. The two main groups.
It's primarily on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Electric guitars are pretty hardy. It's
Right.
basically a box with strings
Right.
and a pickup.
Yeah, the good starting point.
Yeah.
So on acoustic instruments, arch tops, flat top guitars, it makes a difference.
Type of finish.
Yeah. So if you hear folks talk about poly finish versus nitro finish, so you have different finishes within the poly family, polyvinyl, polyester. There's a few different kinds, but what happens with that, it's easier to shoot that finish and to build it quickly. What you have is you really have a candy shell, almost a bulletproof candy shell around the instrument, which is usually why poly finishes are reserved for more inexpensive instruments, so you can get them out quicker. Okay, nitro finish, it takes longer to shoot in layers, and the name of that game is to make it as thin as possible to allow the instrument to resonate and vibrate and really sing, and over the years it can really come to its own in terms of sound. So the finish makes a huge difference, but it should really be there price point wise when you're looking at the instrument. So there's a lot of things that, especially acoustic guitars that have poly, that have in common with each other. One of them might be a stacked heel, where it's a little bit more inexpensive. The lumber that you need to make the neck is half of what you would normally need. A scarf peg head joint. These are all things that you would do on more inexpensive guitars in the acoustic world, from around $500 to say $1,250, $1,500 or so. That's what you're going to have: stacked heel, scarf joint, and a poly finish. Once you get up to a nitro finish, gloss nitro finish, well, you know, then usually you're not going to have the stacked heel and the scarf joint in the neck, and it's a little bit more expensive to make that or build that box. On electric instruments, it's a little bit different. Where on vintage, you're going to have a lot of nitro, and there's a lot of folks that prefer to even have nitro on their, you know, electric guitars. In the bass world, poly is very common on even high-end instruments, and I get why. Most of what you're hearing, the vast majority, is going to come from your pickups, and it's a hard finish. It's bulletproof. It stands the test of time. It polishes easily, and I get that. So really, this has what you said before. It really applies to acoustic instruments as far as finish and affecting its tone.
Yeah. It's easy to get overwhelmed, guys, with a lot of information and how many 30 seconds and this affects that and this affects that. And oh my goodness, my guitar is this, you know, hothouse orchid that anything I do with it is gonna screw it up. In the grand scheme of things, guitars are pretty hardy things if you just keep to some simple basics of, keep the humidity at least the extremes at bay. You want to have your guitar in a mid range of humidity.
100% right, and also what's comfortable to you.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in a house and you wake up in the morning and you notice that your throat is dry and feels like there's a roll of sandpaper inside of it, well, you're going to go get a drink as soon as you wake up. Well, your guitar can't do that. You know. So if you wake up and your body's a good indicator, I think, of the, you know, how comfortable your house is, the humidity, the temperature. That's the climate or the environment you want to keep your instruments in as well.
Yeah. I know for me, when you first get a new guitar, it's like getting a new car. You just, that first scratch is going to kill you.
Yep.
Okay, don't worry about that.
No, not at all.
Don't worry about that.
Not at all.
Your car is going to get a scratch. Your guitar is going to get a scratch. It's just character.
That's right.
Is what you're building into. Of course, you want to try and limit that. You want to try and do what you can. But I've learned not to cry too hard on that first scratch.
And it is what it is.
It's
You're
never going to get it back. It just is what it is.
And you're playing that instrument, and I would hope that you would scratch that instrument at some point. I mean, you have to handle it. You have to play it. You know, one of the things that I see sometimes is a pristine instrument, 20 years old.
What does that tell you?
Well, that tells me it doesn't get played.
Never
that's
been played.
That's exactly
right.
what that tells me.
Yeah.
You know, so folks that play their instrument, you're married to it. You're playing on it all the time. It's with you. You're gonna knock it into things. It is what it is. You try not to, but you're gonna get little scratches. Hell, you can even, use a polish with a polishing cloth that might have a little piece of debris on the polishing cloth. Yeah. And you can scratch your finish just by your polishing cloth. Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But I'd say play the instrument. Have it function well. Have it perform well. Have it set up properly. Yep. And don't focus on the little things.
You need to get a few things. Make sure your guitar has them. Generally, a good quality acoustics will come with them. A truss rod tool for that instrument. You should have that. You should know what that truss rod tool, just throw it in the case, throw it in your bag, whatever. So you've got the truss rod right one for that instrument. Get yourself some good guitar polish. Mm-hmm. Get yourself some good fretboard cleaner and conditioner there. A good polishing cloth. Have one in every case. Yeah. So you just do smart things. Wash your hands before you play. Right. Wipe down your guitar when you're done. Don't do dumb things. Keep it,
Right. I mean, and the other thing, one of the questions I hear when I do workshops, one of the things that everyone's most afraid of doing is adjusting their truss rods, right? Man, whether it's a single action, dual action truss rods are pretty hardy. You're not likely to break your truss rod unless you're a real animal about it. When a truss rod does break 99 times out of 100 is the head snapping off. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not your fault. Mm-hmm. It happens. The metal got fatigued. If you feel yourself flexing as you're making that adjustment, stop. That's a standard adjustment that should be made, and there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe at that point take it in. But if you're able to freely move it without, you're not going to break that truss rod, and make an adjustment to it and see what happens. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you're going to make a small turn in going right clockwise, you're going to notice your action go down. The reverse of it, you're going to you see your action come up. Just be mindful that the rod that's laid inside of your neck underneath your fingerboard is really only making an adjustment from right around the first frets up till about the 10th, 11th, or 12th frets. Yeah. Okay, and in a perfect world, what it's doing is in the centermost point, it's bowing it up or down. Mm-hmm. Okay, after that, it's where I call no man's land. Mm-hmm. That there's no adjustment that you can make on the rod that helps this situation right here. Yeah, Yeah. So get in there and play with it. The tolerance is a few thousandths of an inch. What does that look like? It's a it's a sheet of printer paper folded in half. I mean, that's a few thousandths. It's a very small amount. These are the increments we're working with here. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you
for taking a few minutes to be with us. It has been. It's always great having you here with us. Greg is a humble guy. I have on my list here. These are just some of the instruments that he has worked on. Gary Rossington from Leonard Skinner, Tommy Shaw from Styx, Elliot Easton from the Cars. You worked on instruments from Jewel, Everlast, Roy Acuff, Chet Atkins, Les Paul, Brad Paisley, Steve Vai. All of these people's instruments have come at one time across Greg's bench.
Man, I've been busy.
You have been busy. You're an impressive guy. I'm humbled to just sit next to you. If you have a large repair, this is what Gruhn's does. So if you can contact Greg to ask him about it, you can go to greg@gruhn.com, Gruhn, greg@gruhn.com. Take a few pictures, send it to him, to ask him what he thinks. Yeah. And he'll shoot straight if it's something that can be fixed, if it's something that can't, whatever.
I'll always help out. There's very few projects that we take on here at Gruhn's, unless it's like something pretty epic that if we're not representing it, we're not likely to work on it. We're just too busy with our own inventory and instruments that are consigned. But this army of yours means a lot to me. So anytime you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out. I mean, if you're sitting on an instrument, you don't know what it is, you need somebody trusted to speak with, communicate with. I'll tell you what you have. I'll tell you roughly what it's worth and what you're sitting on. You know, if you think it's something really, really cool, we'll make quick work of it. You know, and if it is something that cool, then, you know, we'll talk about pictures and maybe go through our appraisal process. But if you're sitting on an instrument and you want to make some adjustments and you have some questions, I'm here 5 days out of the week, and I field phone calls every day. So you can always call me here at the store or drop me a line by way of email, and I'll help out any which way I can.
The Gruhn also does appraisals. So if you have just inherited granddad's guitar and you don't know if it's valuable or not, or you may not be that experienced with what guitars are worth, things like that. It could just be an old guitar, or it could be something that you could retire on.
Right.
So this is, again, what Gruhn's does. So they do appraisals. So you can go to guitars.com, and there's a little tab up there for appraisals. You click on that, you send a few pictures, as much information as you have about the instrument, send that in, and chances are George Gruhn himself will look at that instrument and say, okay, well, what you're dealing with there is you've got a 1950 whatever, and it's worth about this.
Right. A lot of folks don't realize. I mean, we work so closely. We have an appraisal department. Joe Spann heads that up, and he's got a fantastic name. He's been in this business a long time. He knows vintage guitars. He wrote the Spann Guide. Tremendous respect for Joe. He's great. You have George Gruhn, 9 full-time repairmen that have seen a lot of instruments. Lynn Krausen, he's a Fender expert to the highest level. I mean, I go to him all the time, and he has all these specs down to the most minute increment, you know, with regards to changes that were made within certain years and so on and so forth. There's so much knowledge and experience here at Gruhn's. We all get in. So we could be looking at a $10,000 appraisal, an instrument. You know, it's a great amount, but it's not, you know, huge. I mean, we've seen a lot of instruments, and it's not uncommon for 4 of us to get in and to say, all right, let's see what's going on here, whether it be by finish, batch number, serial number. George, he's seen it all, I think, and between the 4 or 5, sometimes 6 of us, we'll figure out what it's worth, what it looks like just from photographs, a current market value, and we all put our heads together daily. This happens daily. Yeah.
You could have an instrument. You just don't know. It depends on the year, it depends on the type of instrument, the model, things like this. You could have a $2,000 instrument, you could have an $8,000 instrument, you could have an $80,000 instrument.
That's right.
You just don't know until you have that appraised. So that's one of the things that Gruhn does here. Okay. We've got more questions than we can get to, and it's already, we're out of time. Greg is also on our discussion board. So you can go to guitargathering.com. If you want to go to guitargathering.com/community, that'll get you to our discussion board. It'll route you there anyway if you get to guitargathering.com. And there's a whole section there on guitar care and repair and setup and things like that. And Greg periodically checks in with that and answers questions. So if you are having a question about that, get on our discussion board and ask questions. If you're not interested in guitar care or whatever, just get on there and for support. So we had just had our year anniversary of our new discussion board, and at guitargathering.com. So if you're looking for some support, it's all free. There's resources over there. There's free stuff. All the live lessons get cataloged over there. We're in a bunch of different places now. So we've got our discussion board. Be a part of the family for that. We have birthdays and all kinds of stuff. Ozzy Muso had her birthday today. Snugs had her birthday today. Sharon, all these great folks. So it's a wonderful little guitar family of which Greg has been a part of since the very beginning.
I love it. The best community of folks in any forum I have ever been a part of, period. Yep. Hands down, positive folks, encouraging. They really care. They get in there. They offer their thoughts, whatever it might be. I don't see any cattiness issues that usually come with forums nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't see any of it. It's a beautiful place full of great, encouraging folks, and I love being a part of it. I get around to answering questions as best as I can,
Yeah.
but I love it every time I get in there. I make an hour out of it and try to field wherever I can to come in and do what I have to do. But I love it. Everyone there is fantastic. So keep up the great work, guys.
You got a couple of events coming up.
I do. The dates haven't been set yet, but it's check out if you guys are interested in wanting to learn how to set up instruments. Starting from the foundation, which is going to be your fretwork, all the way up to the setup part of it. I lay it all out in easy to follow instructions on how to do it. You will bring your own instrument in. I do weekend workshops over at the Nazareth Guitar Institute in Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
And they can go onto their website.
Check out NGI, Nazareth Guitar Institute, their website, and there's a schedule on when I'll be there. I don't think we've posted dates yet, but it'll be at least once, maybe even twice before the spring is over. I'll be up there doing workshops. Check often once dates that I do with those guys, and those guys stay plenty busy themselves, but usually when we do these fret dress setup workshops, they sell out really fast, which is awesome. Which is awesome. But check it out once in a while, and if you guys are thinking you might want to take part and the dates aren't posted yet, shoot me an email and I'll go ahead and shoot that straight to the younger boys in Nazareth to see if they'll make some room and put you guys on there as well. But it's fun.
Greg also does workshops for us at our Summer Guitar Gathering Conference, which is coming up. Now that we can officially say it's the next conference on the thing, Guitar Gathering 2019. You can go to guitargathering2019.com and get all of the information about our wonderful 4-day conference. Hey, we just locked in Johnny Hyland and his band to be doing the Thursday night blowout concert, and we're sure to have a couple of special guests join Johnny on stage too. So that is going to be a magical musical moment, and I'm dying to tell you who the next person is, but they have not confirmed yet. So when they confirm, I will let you know. And it is big. The biggest, I think, that we've ever had. So it'd be great. So that's that. Check it out. We've got actually a discount going on right now. It's, I think, $495 for the 4-day conference, which is cheap. Gosh, I look at all these other guitar conferences. It's like $2,000.
It's crazy.
So, and we are voted Best Guitar Camp. We won the Acoustic Guitar Magazine's Player's Choice Award, their Silver Award for Best Guitar Camp several years back. And it's just a great, fun place for people of all skill levels. If you're just starting your journey, if you're more advanced, we've got classes and workshops for all of that. So, and there's master classes and fun concerts at nights and stuff like that. But there's a $50 off promo code right now that's just good for like the next week or so. I think it stops on the 15th. So if you're interested and you're thinking about doing that, go ahead and register and use the promo code, get $50 off. You want to take a spouse, you want to take a guest, it's just $100 more. They don't have to pay the full price, it's just $100 more. So it's a great conference. And then we also have our fingerstyle conference in the fall as well. You can go to fingerstyleretreat.com and that'll get you to that one.
Is there any more openings for the fingerstyle one?
There is openings for the fingerstyle one, although, man, it's in November and we're well over half filled for the fingerstyle retreat.
It's a good time.
We got Don Ross coming. Wow.
It's a good time. I'll tell you, the summer conference is fantastic. You've put it on, what is it, 10 years? I don't even know.
Yeah, we've been 10 years.
A long time. It's dynamite. It's a lot of fun, great folks. I love everything about it. It's the flagship, right?
Yeah.
The fingerstyle, the fall fingerstyle is what are we talking, less than 20 some people?
Oh yeah, it's 22 people.
22 people. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's the most amazing time folks can have, and
we all stay there together.
It's fantastic.
It's kind of more of a living room sort of atmosphere. So you're 10 feet away from Phil Kagi.
I couldn't believe it. This is the second time you put it on. I was there for one, maybe 2 days. I hang out. Last time I was there for one. And I was just thinking about it, and there was a fireplace there. Phil Kagi was playing in the living room area, and there's around 20 people just sitting around. It's as if Phil Kagi was in your living room serenading you for an hour. It's the most amazing thing, and he wasn't the only person there.
Yeah.
Every night there was a mega person coming in to play, great food. It's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
it's a wonderful time. It's a wonderful time.
Great event. Check that out too if you're interested in being a part of that. Wow. Okay, I've completely blown everything. Oh, I've so many things to tell you about. Hey, we are one of the most helpful videos that I got when I was a younger fella, and I was really serious on learning. One of the most helpful ones I got was from Robin Ford. So we have gathered together this month a couple of his newer DVDs, and we've put together a Robin Ford Blues Bundle. So it's 2 DVDs, over 3 hours of instruction from Robin Ford, and PDFs, like 80 pages of examples written out in music and tab. These are great. So we just got that linked up today. Our wonderful moderators are putting that up. So if you're interested in getting the Robin Ford Blues Bundle, if you want to increase your blues knowledge, I could do a whole live lesson on. I watched his. He had a just a little example of using a diminished scale over a 5 chord when you're going, when you're going to like the 4 in a blues situation. Brilliant. He did it for a minute and a half. Man, I'm going to be studying that for a couple of weeks trying to get that lick down. We'll do a whole live lesson on it here in the future. That was just one little nugget. He's brilliant with all that sort of stuff. If you're interested in really kicking up your blues knowledge, check out those 2 videos that we have in the Robin Ford Blues Bundle. Okay? I was going to give you some other tips for things, but we're actually physically running out of time. We will have a live lesson next week with Claudio Tristano, a great younger player from Los Angeles who's going to be here, and maybe even Justice West, another brilliant player. He's 17 years old. He's brilliant. Both of the guys are going to be actually in town doing a show with Vince Gill next. Are you going to that?
No, I wish.
I wish. Oh, it's been sold out for weeks. It's Vince Gill. It's called Vince Gill and the 5 players.
Right.
My 5 favorite players, and wow, it is brilliant. So anyway, we're having 2 of them going to be with us next week for our live lesson. So after that, I'm going to be heading to NAMM, to Los Angeles for NAMM week. We're going to be interviewing a bunch of guitarists out there and seeing a whole lot of fun things. So if you're I know I'm going to be stopping in Phoenix. I know I'm going to be stopping in Los Angeles. I know I'm going to be stopping in Las Vegas to be interviewing the guitar player for Cirque du Soleil when their show's out there. So if you're in either one of those 3 places and you want to get together for a lesson while I'm in the area, shoot me an email, service@mightyoakmusic.com, and we can send you out. We can try and connect while I'm coming through the area. Hey, let's give away one thing. We talked about our fingerstyle workshop, fingerstyle retreat. Our fingerstyle retreat this past year had John Knowles, certified guitar player from Chet Atkins. John Knowles, legendary educator. This is a new project that he just finished up with, I believe it's True Fire. And so someone is about to win John Knowles' new project. The winner of this is Ron Peterson. Ron, send me your information at service@mightyoakmusic.com, and we will get you fixed up with all of that sort of stuff. All right, I want to play one thing to get us out of here. Once again, thank you, Greg.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Wow, what a joy having you as part of our guitar family. Thanks for all that you do and all that you've done to support our guitar community.
Absolutely, and thank you guys. Thank you.
You bet. All right, let me play you out with one song here. We did a fingerstyle guitar course. I guess I should play this fingerstyle and not use a pick. And I remember as I was creating that course, I wanted to put together this little song to illustrate a couple of points. And so I did the song, and I didn't have a name for it, so I literally yelled across the hallway to one of our editors, Grant. I said, "Hey, Grant, what's your daughter's name?" And his daughter's name was Carolina. So I wrote this little tune called Carolina, and I came across just over the holidays a video of some girl, I don't know, in Poland or something like that, playing this song, Carolina, that I thought up at my desk here in Nashville. Internet is an amazing thing. So anyway, here is a little bit of Carolina here, if I can remember it.
All right, good night. Keep up the great work in your own learning, and we will see you all next week.